I think the most alarming thing that we saw was the regular stream, organized stream of communication between the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the largest tech companies in the country. They had an organized system for flagging content, not occasionally, but in enormous numbers, involving spreadsheets of accounts that ran to the hundreds and thousands. And this was shocking to us, and to the Congressman's point, this isn't crazy conspiracy theory. We've already had 4 federal judges rule that they believe this activity violates the First Amendment. This is quite serious. We didn't know whether it was against the law, but we certainly thought it was shocking enough to be in the public interest, and that for me was the most serious thing.
Yeah, for me, it was seeing the so-called former FBI officials within Twitter and working with and other groups, including this Aspen Institute, participating in an effort to so-called pre-bunk the Hunter Biden laptop before it was ever published in the New York Post, and then to get it censored by Twitter in violation of Twitter's own terms of service, whose internal staff had concluded that the New York Post tweet had not violated their terms of service, and they censored it anyway.
Mr. Shellenberger, I want to ask you further that revolving door between the FBI and Twitter, and I also want to ask about those third-party, essentially government proxies. You referenced the Aspen Institute. Can you delve deeper into both of those questions, both of those topics?
Sure. It was the former general counsel of the FBI, Jim Baker, and the former deputy director of the FBI had both taken jobs at Twitter. There were so many FBI people at Twitter that they had their own internal group and their own little crib sheet to describe the difference between the terms that they use at the FBI versus at Twitter.
CIA had it as well.
Yeah, CIA as well had their own little internal group. And I'm sorry, what was the second question?
The third-party proxies.
Oh, yeah. Well, then the Aspen Institute, this was the weirdest thing. We discovered that Aspen Institute had created a workshop that it was attended by basically all of the major media, including as well as all the major social media platforms, to basically pre-bunk in advance the Hunter Biden laptop, even though it had not been, there was no evidence that it existed outside of the fact that the FBI knew that they had it because they got it in December 2019. So to have the Aspen Institute trying to persuade people not to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story in August and September of 2020 was quite chilling and disturbing to see.
These content moderators at social media platforms like Twitter wield an enormous amount of power in terms of determining not only what Americans can say, but also what Americans can see. Do you believe, Mr. Taibbi and Mr. Shellenberger, that it's appropriate for unelected bureaucrats or these tech companies to collude to influence what Americans can say or read?
Absolutely not. And, you know, I wanted to stress again that all this was happening secretively with the blessing of the Department of Homeland Security, with them sending things to, this is from the EIP at Stanford to Twitter and Facebook saying, we repeat our recommendations that this account be suspended. We recommend labeling all instances of this article. We recommend that you flag as false this. All these demands being made secretly without any public review. My view is that we don't, the government doesn't decide who can speak in the town square. Why should the government be deciding who can speak on social media platforms? We, the people, should decide our own content as adults, legal content. It should not be decided by either government or big tech.
And Mr. Taibbi and Mr. Shellenberger, do you believe that this censorship is a form of election interference?
Absolutely it is. There's no question in my mind.
Mr. Taibbi?
Yes, I think it certainly can be. In the latest story that we did on the CTI League, we saw the overt partisanship of the people involved in this operation. That was actually the reason the whistleblower came forward. The people involved just assumed, one of the quote was, they assumed everyone who was smart thought the way they did. They talked about the potential election of Donald Trump being an end-of-the-world event. They talk about the wackadoodles who actually watch Fox News. And, you know, even as somebody who doesn't vote for Republicans, it was shocking to me to see this. And I think this was a consistent theme of not just the CTI League, but most of the censorship organizations that we looked at. They all tend to drift in one direction.